Good morning to all of you. I'm Dr. Sarika Dixit, teaching in School of Social Sciences, DAVV India University. And this topic, National Policy for the Empowerment of Women 2001, is for the MSW second semester students who are studying Gender 1 paper of Gender Studies. So, here is a few basic points on the national policy of the empowerment of women in 2001. So, this national policy comes in the existence in 2001 because gender equality is enshrined in Indian Constitution in its preamble, in its fundamental rights, in its fundamental duties and directive principles. So, Constitution not only grants equality to women but also empowers the state to adopt measures of positive discrimination in favor of women. So, within the framework of this democratic polity, our laws, our development policies, plans, programs have aimed at women's advancement in different spheres. From the fifth five-year plan, 1974 to 78 onwards, it has been a marked shift in the approach to women issues from welfare to development. These approaches are WID, WAD, GAD. So WID is women in development, women and development, and gender and development. So and now we are in the approach, we are shifted to the approach women empowerment approach. So in recent years, the empowerment of women has been recognized as a central issue in determining the status of women. The National Commission for Women has set up an Act of Parliament in 1990 to safeguard the rights and legal entitlements of women. And this 73rd and 74th Amendment of the Constitution of India have provided the reservation of seats in the local bodies of panchayats and municipalities for women to underline a strong foundation for their participation in decision making at the local levels. India has ratified various international conventions and human rights instruments committing to secure equal rights of women. Key among themselves for the ratification of Convention of Elimination of all forms of discrimination against a woman. This is also known as CEDAW, and this comes in the existence in 1993. After that, the Mexico Plan of Action in 1975. It is the Nairobi Forward-Looking Strategies 1995 and the Beijing Declaration as well as the Platform for Action in 1995 and the outcome document adopted by the UNGA session on gender equality and development and peace for the 21st century. And it titles Further Actions and Initiative to Implement the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, and it has been unreservedly endorsed by the India for appropriate follow. The policy also takes notes of commitment of the ninth five-year plans and the other sectoral policies relating to empowerment of women. The women's movement and a worldwide spread network of non-governmental organizations which have strong grassroots presence and deep insight into women's concern have contributed in inspiring initiative for the empowerment of women. However, there still exists a wide gap between the goals enunciated in the Constitution, legislation, policies, plans, programs, and related mechanism on the one hand, and the reality of the status of women in India. And this has been analyzed extensively in the report of Committee on the Status of Women in India. This report had name as Towards Equality Report. And it highlighted in the National Perspective Plan for Women 1988 to 2000, the Shram Shakti Report 1988 and Platform for Action. So, there are also a few things, a few forms which manifest in various forms, and the most obvious being the trend of the continuously declining female ratio in the population in the last few decades. Societal stereotyping, violence at the domestic and societal level are some of other manifestations are there in our society. And discrimination against children, adolescent girls, women persist in parts of country. So the underlying causes of gender inequality are related to their social and economic structure, which is based on informal and formal norms and practices. Consequently, the excess of women, particularly those belongs to a weaker section, including scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward classes and minorities. Majority of whom are in the rural areas and are in informal sector, unorganized sector, and to education, health, productive resources, among others, is inadequate. Therefore, they remain largely unorganized, marginalized, poor, and socially excluded. The goal of this policy is bring about the advancement, development, and empowerment of women. The policy will be widely disseminated so as to encourage active participation of all stakeholders for active achieving its objectives are basically as follows. First of all, creating an environment through positive economic and social policies for full development of the women, in enabling them to realize their full potential. Second is the de jure and de facto enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedom by the woman on inequality, on equal basis with men in all spheres like political, economic, social, cultural, civil. Too many things are there. Equal access to participation in decision making in social, political, and economic life of the nation. Equal access to women to healthcare, quality education at all levels, career and vocational guidance, employment, equal remuneration, occupational health and safety, social security and public offices. Strengthening legal system aimed at the elimination of all forms of discrimination against a woman. Channel societal attitudes, community practices by active participation and involvement of both men and women. And mainstreaming a gender perspective in the development process and elimination of discrimination of all forms of violence against women and the girl child. Building and strengthening partnership with civil society, particularly women's organizations, policy perspectives, prescriptions, judicial legal system. Judicial system will be more and more responsive and gender sensitive to women's needs, especially in case of domestic violence and personal assault. At the initiative of and with the help of with the full participation of all stakeholders including community and religious leaders, the policy would aim to encourage the personal laws such as those related to marriage, divorce, maintenance and guardianship so as to eliminate discrimination against women. This evaluation of property right in a particular system has contributed to a subordinate status of women. And this policy would aim to encourage changes in laws related to ownership of the property, inheritance by covering consensus in order to make them gender just. Decision making. Its next objective, women's equality in power sharing, active participation in decision making, including all the political, social, and other spheres. All measures have been taken to guarantee women's equal access to full participation in decision making, besides at every level, including legislative, executive, judicial, corporate, statutory bodies, as also advisory commissions, higher legislative bodies will be considered whenever necessary on a time-bound basis. Next is mainstreaming a gender perspective in development process. Policies, programs, or systems will be established to ensure mainstreaming of the people's perspective in all development processes at catalysts, as a participants, as a recipients, And wherever there are gaps in policies and programs, women specific interventions would be undertaken to bridge these gaps. And coordinating and monitoring the mechanism, interventions would be undertaken to bridge these. So, next objective is economic empowerment of women poverty eradication. Because there is a concept of women poverty, feminization. Since women comprises the majority of women population below the poverty line and they are very often in situation to extreme poverty. Given the harsh reality of intra-household and social discrimination, macroeconomic policies, poverty eradication program will specifically address the needs of the problem of such women. There will be improved implementation of programs which are already women oriented with specific targets of women, and steps will be taken for mobilization of poor women and convergence of services by offering them a range of economic and social options along with the necessary support measures to enhance their capability. But it's quite difficult. Microcredits. This is another area which has been very important because most of the people, most of the women are working in unorganized sector. So, in order to enhance women's access to credit for consumption and production, the establishment of new and strengthening the existing microcredit mechanism and microfinance institution will be undertaken so that outreach of credit should be enhanced. And other supportive measures should be taken to ensure adequate flow of credit through extant financial institutions and banks. Next, our objective is women and economy. Women's perspective will be included in designing and implementing macroeconomic and societal policies by institutionalizing their participation in such processes. Whenever we cannot ensure the participation of women, it will be very difficult to make women streamline in our economy. Reinterpretation, redefinition of conventional concept of work wherever necessary. In census records to reflect women's contribution as a producer and workers, it is very important. And globalization has presented new challenges for the realization of goal of women's equality, the gender impact of which has not been systematically evaluated fully. However, from the micro level studies that were commissioned by the Department of Women and Child Development, it is evident that there is a need for reframing policy for access, employment and quality of employment. The benefits of growing global economy has been unevenly distributed, leading to wider economic disparities, the feminization of poverty, increased gender inequality through often deteriorating women's position and their working conditions. They are working in a very unsafe working conditions, working environment, especially in informal sector. And I already told you that most of the women are already working in an unorganized sector. Our next objective is women in agriculture. In view of the critical role of women in the agriculture and allied sectors as producers, concentrated efforts will be made to ensure that benefits of training, extension, various programs will reach the proportion to their numbers. The programs for training women in soil conservation, soil forestry, dairy development, and too many things are there. And husbandry, small animal husbandry, poultry, fisheries, etc. It will be expanded to the benefit of women workers in the agriculture sectors. So, next objective is of women in industry, and this plays an important role because women are working in electronics, information technology, food processing, agro industries. Too many industries are there where women are working nowadays, and they would be given comprehensive support in terms of labor legislation, social security, and other support system to participate in a various industrial sectors. Women at present cannot work in a night shift in factories, even they wish to. Suitable measures will be taken to enable them to work on the night shift in factories. This will be accompanied with support system or for the security, for the transportation, and too many things. There are a few more support services on which this will be taken care by the government. The provision of support services for women like childcare facilities, including crash at workplace and education institution, home for the aged, disabled, will be expanded and improved to create an enabling environment to ensure their full cooperation in social, political, and economic life. And women-friendly personal policies will be drawn up to the encourage to women participate effectively in the development processes. Our next objective is social empowerment of through women's education, and because equal access to education for women and girls will be ensured, special measures are also taken care by the government to eliminate discrimination, universalization of education, eradicate illiteracy, and create a gender sensitive educational system. Increase enrollment and retention rates of girls improving day by day, and government also ensure and facilitating the girl students for the lifelong learning as well as the development of occupational, vocational, and technical training by programs. And reducing the gender gap in secondary and higher education will be the focus area, and sectoral time targets in existing policy will be achieved with a special focus on girl and women. Next is a holistic approach to women's health, which includes both nutrition and services will be adopted, and special attention will be given to the needs of women and girls at the stage of their life. The reduction of infant mortality, maternal mortality, which are sensitive indicators of human development, it is a primary and priority concern. This policy reiterates the national demographic goal for infant mortality rate. The maternal mortality rate set out in the National Population Policy 2000. Women should have access to comprehensive, affordable, quality healthcare. Measures will be adopted that take account the reproductive rights of the women to enable them to exercise informed choices, their vulnerability to sexual and health problems together with endemic infectious communicable diseases such as malaria, TB, waterborne diseases, as well as hypertension, cardiopulmonary diseases. There are too many things are there. And also the social development and health consequences of HIV, AIDS, and other sexually transmitted diseases will be tackled from the gender perspective. Next is to effectively meet the problems of infant and maternal mortality and early marriage. The availability of good and accurate data on micro level on deaths, birth, marriages is required. It is very important. Now, in accordance with the commitment of the National Population Policy 2000, the population stabilization, the policy recognizes the critical need of men and women to have to leave access to safe, effective, affordable method of family planning of their choices, and need to suitably address the issue of early marriages and interventions such as the spread of education, compulsory registration of marriage, special programs for women like BSY should impact on delaying the age of marriage so that 2010 by the 2010 child marriages are eliminated. But it is a difficult one. Women's traditional knowledge about healthcare and nutrition will be recognized through proper documentation, and its use will be encouraged. The use of Indian and alternative system of medicine will be enhanced within the framework of overall health infrastructure available for women. Next, our objective is nutrition. Women are very high risk of malnutrition and diseases that women face at all the critical stages: infancy, childhood, adolescent, and reproductive phase. It focused attention would be paid to meeting of the malnutrition or meeting the nutritional needs of women at all stages of life cycle. This is also an important view of critical link between the health of adolescent girls. Intra-household discrimination in nutritional matters vis-a-vis girls and women will be sought to be ended through appropriate strategies. And widespread use of nutritional education would be made to address the issues of intra-household imbalances in nutrition and the special needs of pregnant and lactating women. Women's participation will also be ensured in the planning, superintendence, and delivery of the system. Next objective is of drinking water and sanitation. This everyone has the right of safe drinking water, sewage disposal, toilet facilities, sanitation with accessible reach of household. This is the basic necessities, especially in rural areas and in urban slums. Women's participation will be ensured in planning, delivery, and maintenance of such kind of services. Next is women's perspective will be included in housing policy also. Planning of a housing colonies, provision of a shelter, both in rural and urban areas, especially attention will be given for providing adequate and safe housing and accommodation for women, including single women, head of their household, working women, students, apprentice or trainees. Next is environment, and where women will be involved and their perspective reflected in policies and program for the environment conservation and restoration. Next is of science and technology, and there would be greater involvement of women in science and technology. This will include measures to motivate girls to take up science and technology for higher education, and also ensure that development projects with scientific and technical inputs involve women fully. Effort of developing a scientific temper and awareness will also be slept up, and special measures would be taken for their training in areas where they have special skills like communication and information technologies. Next objective is of women in different difficult circumstances in recognition to diversity of women's situations and the acknowledgement of the needs of especially disadvantaged group. Measures and programs will be undertaken to provide these special assistance. Next is all forms of violence against women, physical, mental, and any kind of social stigma, and at any societal level. And next one is right of a girl child. All forms of discrimination against a girl child and violation of her rights shall be eliminated by undergoing or undertaking strong measures to preventive and punitive within and outside the family. And last one is media. Because media is using and portraying women's wrong images in society. So media will be used to portray image consistent with the human dignity of girls and women. The policy will specify strive to remove demeaning, degrading, negative, conventional, stereotyping image of women and violence against women. So this is all about national policy on empowerment of women, national policy on empowerment on women 2001, and there are some clauses, and we are discussing here the objective of the national policy on the empowerment here. And our society, our government is also taking initiative with the intention that we will achieve gender equalities in future. So thank you very much.